There we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jon Elliott, and it's Thursday night. Whoa, and that got real bright, didn't it? Woo. Let's see. There we go. That's better. Welcome to the Jon Elliott Show. It's a little after 7, but it's all right. We're still here. For some reason, my power was flickering on and flickering off, and I don't know what the deal was. But I do know that it's time for the Jon Elliott Show, and I'm super excited tonight because we have another very special guest. You can see I'm repping one fire department right here, the Prince William Fire Department, but we have someone from the Virginia Beach Fire Department coming tonight to answer all of your burning questions about being a firefighter. So here, I'm actually seeing there's someone watching from New Zealand right now, and someone from Australia. So on the other side of the globe, here in America, we're celebrating National Fire Prevention Week. And so I figured tonight would be an awesome night to do that. So, while we're all getting settled in and while everybody's tuning in tonight, I'm going to ask you the same questions I always ask. I'm going to ask you, who are you? Where are you watching from tonight? What's the weather like? What's your week been like? How's your mama doing? Those are questions I always ask. Nobody ever answers, but maybe tonight will be a little bit different. So while you type your answers to that, I want you to start thinking, what would I want to ask a firefighter? Because tonight you're going to have the chance. And in the meantime, down there on the bottom, you're going to see that button that says share. If you can do me a favor and just click share so all of your friends can also learn how to stay safe when it comes to fire safety and prevention. And maybe they want to know something about being a firefighter too. I think someone should ask about calendars, but that's just me. So let me go grab myself a drink. I'll be right back. And in the meantime, hi. John is here. That's the other John that's here. Faith is here. Hey, Sean and Tim, PJ, Zach, Josh, Marcus, Scott, Christina, Blair, Jonathan, John, Jonathan, and John. We got a lot of Johns on here tonight. Everybody's coming in. I see some people type in, and I can't wait to read your responses, but I need to wet my whistle. So I'll be right back. Y'all better actually be typing something, because if you're not, I really am going to be upset. Oh, man. Oh. I'm having another special drink tonight in honor of my special guest. Alright. Y'all can't see me, but you can hear these bottles clinking. Yes, I am so excited. And y'all know whenever I say I have a special drink, this is what I'm bringing back to the table. Alright, let me set this here. I'm going to scroll through and see if I can see anything. Yes, Jonathan Gatewood says, lots of Johns in the house. Represent. There are a ton of Johns in the house. Ashley Woodson is also tuning in. Cinta is here from Harrisonburg. Look at that. Kelly Bond is right there. She said drinking Fireball. Not quite Fireball, but I tell you what, I am drinking bourbon. So I got my glass right here tonight. It's just Jack Daniels, good old classic. Because one thing that my brother loves almost as much as he loves me is bourbon. And we share that. So I'm super excited to have him here tonight. I'm actually trying to pull him up right now. Let's see if we're getting an invite coming here. If you could just hit the accept button when you see it coming through, that would be fantastic. There he is!
Okay.
All right, it works. That was like the best one. Everybody always has a hard time getting it. All right. Okay, so now I got everything up here. I know I didn't tell you I was having bourbon tonight, but this one's
I feel
for you.
left out. I don't even have any bourbon in the house right now.
I think I've got some things to say to that, but I don't want them recorded.
Send me a bottle. That's the penalty.
Well, how about I share it next time you come here?
All right, deal. I'll take it.
Sweet. All right, everybody. Well, I want to introduce you to our special guest tonight. Yes, he is absolutely my brother. This is Captain. It is Captain, right?
Yep, Captain.
Okay, all right. I started putting that all over the place, and I was like, Oh, shoot. Actually, I should probably make sure. But yeah, so this is Captain Jon Elliott. He's in the Virginia Beach Fire Department, and he and I go way back. So tonight will be interesting. You're actually the first person in the family to be on the show. And everybody's been asking for a lot of people from the family to be on the show. I know Chanel was really excited. But basically, we asked Jon here tonight because he is a firefighter. He has been for quite some time. And we want to celebrate National Fire Prevention Week and recognize all of our firefighters and first responders. So tonight, if you have any questions for Jon, just comment them in the comment section, and I'll be looking on my trusty iPad, and we'll pull them up. So I guess that's kind of my intro to you. I wore a fire department hoodie because I thought maybe you would be wearing one, but I was wrong.
I just got work number 2, so I'm still in that. I only got off that, so I'm still settling in.
Well, no matter what you're wearing, everybody's thankful that you do what you do, and I'm sure we all got a lot of questions for you, which nobody's asking any questions right now. But
fire away, I got a list.
Fire away. So
see what you did there.
Yes. Before we get going, I see that Mom is actually commenting through Josh, our other brother, and she says, "Hi, love Mom." But I do want to point out that she just said, "Hi, Jason." So
that says all I need.
So,
thanks, Mom.
That's okay. It was probably because you weren't on yet. That's what it is. All right. So I always like to start off whenever we have a guest, like kind of sharing your story. So in your case, kind of tell us a little bit about like where you came from and how you got to where you are now.
All right. So we grew up at, obviously Jason knows we grew up in a family with a lot of firefighters. So my dad's been in the fire department, I don't know, pushing 45 years now or something like that. We had uncles and cousins and, friends, and we're always around the fire department. So to be honest with you, I was always determined I would not be in the fire department. Never been one to follow the trail that everyone travels. So I was going to do something completely different. And then when, the time came to start picking careers, although I have, had and still have other ambitions too, the fire department made a lot of sense. So I joined, and that was in 2003 when I got started. So coming up on 15 years and March 1st. And
Holy cow.
I got in, and I was at got fortunate to be at a really great assignment with some great guys, and just kind of was like, man, this actually is pretty cool. And so it stuck. And so I have still followed some of my other goals and ambitions for sure. But, 15 years later, I'm doing exactly what I said I wasn't going to do.
And here you are.
Here I am. On my brother's car.
I want to say I didn't realize it had been 15 years almost already.
Yeah.
Yeah, time is flying. And I see you're like a fun guest because I get to like think about stuff and like reminisce with you on the show too.
Tell me
So, well, I will always and forever remember the first day that you came back from Fire Academy, because for anybody who didn't know Jon before, his style and his aesthetic was a little bit different then than it is now, and that was the first time that I ever seen you in like a size 32 pants.
They sized me down on purpose. I couldn't even bend.
I remember that, but it was like kind of cool because like you said, growing up, everybody was firefighters, and I remember seeing you coming back, and I was like, holy cows, he's a firefighter too. So that was neat. But that's one thing a lot of people always ask is like, what training do you have to become a firefighter? So can you talk a little bit about like, if you don't have any training, can you be a firefighter, or do you have to come from a family of firefighters? Like, is it like a genetic thing to be a firefighter? How does that go?
Yeah, all those little things help. So coming from a fire department family or knowing someone or some people who are in the fire department helps, just because you kind of have a background and some of the things that are involved and all that. But training, if you get hired, the fire department will put you through the training. However, a lot of people will go through a lot of preliminary training just to market themselves. So it's a pretty intense process to get hired. I know for Virginia Beach, we usually have 1,000 to 1,500 applicants, and typical hiring class can be 20 to 30 people. So it's pretty stiff competition. So there are definitely a lot of people that are going to go through fire training or EMS training, or just college classes or volunteer or different things like that, just to build their resume. But in all reality, if you're fortunate enough to get selected and get hired, the fire department will put you through a fire academy, which lasts about 7 months from the time you get hired until the time you're actually on a fire truck.
And that's actually like a much bigger time commitment than I think a lot of people realize. Like, exciting to know you don't have to necessarily have any training to begin with, but a lot of people don't realize that it is so intense for that period of time. And that's actually something that Ebony had asked while you were talking, is how long is the process? So that's pretty cool to know. And Corey wanted to know if you played sports in high school. So my question, since I know that you played a bunch of sports in high school, I want to ask you, do you think that being physically active in sports helped you when it came time to making that cut? Because you said it's such stiff competition. Do you think that, physical things like that actually made a difference for you?
No, they legit make a difference, in more ways than that too. But physical fitness is, especially, and it'll vary from department to department. Virginia Beach is pretty heavy on physical fitness. So you have to you meet certain physical standards to even get considered to be hired. Once you're hired, then during the academy, there's PT every single morning. There's PT tests throughout the academy. And you'll be let go if you don't meet the standards. And then even once you hit the floor, and this is where we differ a lot from many departments, is a lot of departments once you get on the floor and you're working, nobody really checks up on you after that. So we have annual physical standards that we have to meet, from actual, like a doctor physical where you're doing blood work and vision and hearing and that type thing, to an actual physical with a guy where you're doing push-ups and arm strength and agility and stretching. We do running and a bod pod to test your body fat and all that good stuff. So all that definitely comes into play for sure. And also, the teamwork is a big thing in the fire department. You're never on a truck by yourself. You always have a team with you. Usually you have multiple trucks going if it's a real deal incident. So it's a huge team incorporated. So if you played sports, that all just kind of ties in. And, so I would say the physical part, but the teamwork part too definitely helps having a sports background for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like that aspect of like the team sports and the team career, because as well as anybody else in the department, that it really is a team, and a lot of times it even transcends this team mentality into, you're looking out for each other like you would family. But I think that's really cool and a good way to put that.
Yeah, I think you should skip probably to Jason Dale's question next if you want.
Well, see, the answer to that actually is that none of us are Elliots with 1 T. We're all Elliots with 2. But when it comes to the Elliots with 2, I'm the one who tonight. No. So I'm going to go ahead and go there. It's John. Do what?
I say you're in the best shape, but I have the best haircut.
Well, this is true. You do maintain yours a lot better than me, probably. For anybody who can't see Jason Dale's comment, he wants to know which Elliott is in the best shape. I think we're all in pretty good shape in one way or another, in one arena or the other. So calm down, Jason Dale. Calm down. And I'll throw this out there too. Tracy Born. There you go. Yeah. So Tracy is watching tonight. Thanks, Tracy. And I'm just going to skip right over the question of has he ever played golf at work, because I'm pretty sure we all know the answer to that question.
Tracy's trying to set me.
That's okay, because that's apparently what we all do. So it's fine.
It is.
Jason tried to set us up. Now Tracy's trying to set us up. But somebody with a real question, actually, a couple of people have commented on this about the differences, and I wanted to talk about this later, but I'll go ahead while they're on the show. So Zach says he's happy to hear. Hold on, happy to hear from your brother tonight. Looking for an interesting story, and he said I'm a paramedic myself, and then so he wants to know. Somebody else did. I'm scrolling through trying to find it. There it goes. Yeah. So he said he's a paramedic, and he wants to know, are you a paramedic or a paramedic and firefighter or just a firefighter? And I think a lot of people would have the question of like, there's a difference between a paramedic or a firefighter or this or that. So can you explain the difference between someone who's a paramedic or someone who's a firefighter, or what it is to be one or the other or both?
Yeah, so it's two completely separate things. Paramedic is strictly the medical part of the training, and firefighter is strictly exactly what it sounds like, the fire part of the training. So depending on what department you go to, most departments require you to have some medical training depending on the level. It's just area specific. So for our department, we actually have gone back and forth a couple times on those requirements. For the majority of the time that I've been and what I went through, we actually went through and we had to go to what's called EMT Enhanced, and now has changed to EMT Advanced. And that's basically a couple steps up. So EMT B is you can do some basic life-saving stuff. You're, stopping bleeding. You can do CPR. You can do splints, that type thing. You can give a few different medicines. When you go up to what is now advanced, that's when you can start IVs, you can push additional meds, you can, do a little bit more. And then if you go up now, you're talking about, for paramedic, that's when they have definitely a bigger variety of medicines they can push. They're the ones that can intubate. So if, anyone is in cardiac arrest, they're the ones that are dropping the tube, and so we can breathe for them and that kind of thing. And there's a variety. You can get real specific on advanced to paramedics. Certain medicines we have to call the hospital and ask permission for, whereas paramedics don't. But for our department, we have to be advanced. But we do have about a quarter of our department is our paramedics by choice, and it comes in handy having all those guys around. So it's just a variety of how extended your training is and how things you can do in the field. A lot of times without having to ask permission for it.
Gotcha. And you may have said this at the beginning and I missed it. So are you a firefighter as well as paramedic, EMT?
I'm not a paramedic. I'm EMT advanced.
Zach was asking.
Yeah, so everybody has to be, in our department, you have to have some form of medical training. So for most of us came in when you had to be at least EMT advanced. And then, like I said, a quarter of our department are firefighter and paramedic, but that's by choice.
Gotcha. Cool. So I'm going to take a minute and just say hi to Michelle and Gloria and Josh and Christina and the other Christina and Rhonda. These are all people that are watching tonight wanting to learn all about being a firefighter. Special shout out to Thomas Castello, who's also watching. That's our cousin, who is also in the department. He's been all over the place, just like a lot of people in our family. John wasn't kidding when he said we had it like running through our veins. So special shout out to anybody else I'm missing that's also a firefighter. Colton, Dominique, Brandon, Michael, Stuart, Ben, Corey, Chanel. There are all kinds of people here tonight. This is awesome. Chris King is also here, and he wants everybody to know that firefighters have bigger hoses. And we'll say it depends on what department you're in, how big your hose is going to be, because you got to have the right water flow for the right kind of fire. Which brings us to another question: do you remember your first call?
Yeah, I do actually. So over the course of years, you end up running thousands of calls. A lot of them blend in. A lot of them are the same thing over and over. But I would say probably most people can remember the first one. It's a little different. You kind of got the adrenaline rush. You're trying to figure out what's going on and trying to keep up with the guys that have been around when you have no idea what you're doing. And so my first call was actually a fire alarm to a movie theater on a Sunday evening that was packed out. And it was it was a true rookie call. It ended up, it was a false alarm, but the alarm was going off. There was evacuation, people everywhere when we pulled up, and every time we pull up and there's people, there's also cameras and cell phones and whatever. And true rookie style, still had my headset on. We wear headsets in the truck so we can hear each other and talk on the radio. And I was all gung ho, geared up, had my tools, ready to rock, jumped out of the truck with the headset on, yanked my head right back in. So that was awesome. Awesome way to start. I was out of breath, adrenaline running, and pulling the headset with me as I tried to go into the building. So, yeah, I remember that for sure.
Nice. So that was a false alarm, but how many times are you actually inside of a burning building where there's fire? You know, we always see it in the movies. How often does that actually happen?
First of all, what you see in the movies is not what it actually is. So they can't make it realistic in the movies because then you wouldn't see anything. Most of the time in the burning buildings, it's black. You know, you're going by just looking for orange glow, feeling your way around, staying low, all that good stuff. But, you know, I would say we enjoy, obviously it's fun for us to go to fires. That's kind of why we do it. You know, that's what we train for. Over the years, the numbers have definitely gone down, and that's because there's been a bigger shift, one, in the industry, a lot of the industries, the building industry, and everything that comes out is tested so extensively to be fire resistant, fire retardant, that type thing. But there's also a huge push for fire safety education. So in our department, we actually have an educational component that goes out and does school events and community events, door to door, handing out smoke detectors, and you know, we do all kinds of stuff to prevent fires. So while it is what we enjoy, it's fun for us, and all that good stuff, we don't go. It's not an everyday occurrence like it used to be, and you know, even though it's not necessarily an exciting thing for us, it's good for the rest of the world that there's not fires going on all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to take a couple of the questions that are coming through on the comments as well. I'm going to scroll a little back up further. So another Jonathan Gatewood, wanted to know, what are the biggest challenges that you've faced during your professional career, and what advice would you yield to individuals contemplating serving in such a capacity?
You know, for the challenges, I think that's really specific to who you are, what matters to you most, where you are in your life, that kind of thing. I would say for me, the biggest challenges are, you know, the fact we work 24-hour shifts, and that's a good thing in a lot of ways, that, you know, you end up with more days per month that you're off, allows you to do other things, work second jobs, be with your family, and that type of thing. However, it also comes with a price too. So you're always working birthdays, you're working holidays. You know, I'm a big family guy. I like to coach my daughter's basketball team. You know, I've coached her sister's softball team, and I can never just be a head coach because I can't be at every practice. I can't be at every game because everything is shifted towards the 8 to 5 crowd. So, you know, when people are going to practices at 7 o'clock at night, you know, we're still working. We still have another 13 hours to go on our shift. So, you know, you try to find ways around that stuff. So, you know, I do still coach, but I've always got to have somebody who's willing to be my assistant and run things when I can't be there. As far as the holidays, this year we work Christmas Day, which I hate because I love Christmas. And, you know, that's part of the price you pay. And so I actually took off of work on the 23rd, which we were supposed to work. And so we're shifting everything up a day. So the 23rd is going to be our Christmas Eve. The 24th will be our Christmas morning. So you find ways around stuff. Some of them you just have to eat. For me, that's the biggest thing, is just, you know, missing out on those type events or having to kind of shift your life around to accommodate it. What was the second part of this question? Was advice on...
what would you give advice? What advice would you give to anyone contemplating serving in this capacity?
I would say do research first. See, you know, you would be surprised how many people go through the entire hiring process and make it through and then quit during the academy or quit as soon as they get to the station because they're like, man, I'm not cut out for this, or this isn't what I thought it was going to be, or man, I didn't know I was going to have to go into a building where I can't see anything and it's 1,000 degrees. And so I would say do your research. Go go around to different fire stations, talk to people who are doing it, who have done it for a long time. A lot of departments will let you do a ride along, so you can actually get on the truck and run calls. You won't be able to do anything, obviously, because you're not trained, but you can just be there and see what happens, and get a feel for a life, a day in the life of the fire department. So I would say just do your research up front before you even decide to go down that road. Would be my biggest advice. Make sure it is exactly what you want to do.
Yeah. And actually, I'm glad you said that about the ride-alongs, because that was something I wanted to talk about in a little bit too. And it's important to know too that you don't have to be, considering being a firefighter or a paramedic to do a ride-along. A lot of times, people in the communities will say, I just want a better understanding of what happens, or, like, hey, I've always seen it in the movies. What is it really like, here in Charlottesville or there in Virginia Beach or wherever? And so there are a lot of community members that they're already established in a career, or they have no desire at all to be a firefighter, but they want to know what it's like, behind the scenes. And I think doing those ride-alongs is awesome. Like, I never intended to be a police officer, but I did a ride-along with the police department, and it was great. Like, I learned so much, and you hear things come across the radio, and you're like, how do you know what they said? I can't understand a single word of what just happened, and, trying on the gear and, things like that. Like, I think it would really give anybody a better appreciation and respect for the field and for those people who do this every day. So I encourage anybody to do a ride along wherever you are, because practically every department that I've ever heard of welcomes people to come, visit and do a ride along.
Yeah.
Yep. So I want to switch gears just a little bit. So we've been talking a lot about firefighters and what it's like to be in the fire department. But Rhonda is providing us with a really good segue. She's representing the Navy Regional Fire Department as well. This is our cousin Rhonda Glass, who is also in Chesapeake. And she says she wants to talk a little bit about fire prevention, because this is National Fire Prevention Week. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. And the first is actually from Rhonda. She wants to know, how often should people check their smoke detectors? And also, can you talk about things like the dryers and how those might pose some sort of a risk?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. No, not a lot of people bring that up. The smoke detectors, you can't check them too often. Check them on a regular basis. But we do always kind of say, to make it easy to remember, whenever there's a time change. So when it's coming up, we got our fallback, So change the batteries and every smoke detector you have in the house. That's just the easy way to do it, because we say every 6 months, and that's how it works out. So then it's just make it a natural thing. So, got to change the clocks, got to change the batteries in the smoke detector. And, I will say, from the house fires I've been in, I would bet that there's been more that I've been in where the smoke detector wasn't working or didn't exist at all, more so than the ones that alerted them to get out. So it's something that you always hear it, you always see them everywhere. You can get them at Walmart and wherever you go, but it's just kind of taken for granted. So, it is something that we constantly preach. As far as the dryer, like I said, that's a good point. So a lot of times your lint trap or even your vent to the outside will get clogged up. And if it clogs up, then all it does is just backflow all that hot air, and it'll actually, that lint is extremely flammable. So it gets hot enough and it lights that lint off, and that's all it takes, is just one little spark, get it just hot enough, and once something lights off, everything around it, is liable to light off too. So that's a good point with the dryer.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want people to get super paranoid, but I think those little things can remind us that, like you said, the lint, we don't think anything of the lint, but it's so flammable, it can easily turn into something big, and it's, I always think about, watching the different scenarios, growing up. They have the training videos and stuff that they'll show a lot of times in schools about how flammable things like your mattress or your couch or your curtains can be. And I think all really important, especially as we're coming up to cooler winter times. I think a lot of people are going to be pulling out their space heaters. They're going to be turning up the heat and things like that. So thinking about those devices, do you have any tips that maybe we should look out for or keep in mind with particularly like space heaters?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of just hinted on it there, but the way things are made now, everything is extremely flammable, and the way everything is made with certain plastics and everything, if it does catch on fire, it burns a lot hotter, it burns a lot faster, it produces a lot more toxic smoke, a lot more black smoke, which makes visibility hard, and basically the time from the fire ignites until the time it's uncontrollable is a lot faster than it used to be. It's not tenable for as long as it used to be. So basically, use your common sense here. Space heaters, keep them away from anything that could be ignited. So any of your furniture, any of your blankets, all your curtains, all that good stuff, just put it in the middle of the room or somewhere away from everything. And if you have animals or small kids, obviously you would keep it somewhere it's not going to get knocked over, or they're not going to mess with it, and all that good stuff. Yep.
And also, kudos again to our cousin for bringing up another good point. If you're using a fireplace, be sure that you get your chimney cleaned. So that stuff can cake up, and it can be really, really dangerous if you don't keep that maintained. So another good point there, Rhonda. I will tell you too, real quick, we've had a lot more people pop in and pop out. So just a reminder, anybody can ask Jon any questions while he's still here. He's a wide open book when it comes to anything about fire safety. Jasmine Seville from Virginia Beach is watching. So if her house catches on fire, maybe you'll be the one to save her life. Keith is here. Luann, Davion J, Mary, Lolly Cox is sending us all kinds of love. Mike, Catherine, a Brian with an I and a Brian with a Y. So we have all kinds of people coming in here today. And actually, our Aunt Sandra from out in St. Louis, she says hi, sends her love, and says she's really excited because their fire department is coming out to she has a school, like a preschool, and so they're actually coming out to do some education with the kids next week, and she's super excited about that. So I want to ask you too, when you go to schools, you tell people, what to do if they catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. But one thing that I think is really important to think about is what to do if, like, for example, your home catches on fire. A few months ago, the fire alarm here in my apartment complex went off, and we all had to evacuate because the building was filling up with smoke. So I want to ask you, do I have time to pack a bag before I get out of the house, or can I just wait until the alarm goes off before I leave the apartment complex? Should I really worry about it if a fire alarm starts going off?
Since I know you well, I know you're a pretty smart fellow, I feel like you already know the answer to that. Basically, we say life safety takes precedence over everything else. So the only thing I would even possibly remotely say to stop for a second for is if you have someone that's there with you that's incapable of getting themselves out. If you have a baby, if you have an elderly person, a handicapped person that's right there, you can get them out safely and quickly. Go for it, do it. Otherwise, get yourself out. And a lot of times you end up, I've been on calls where someone has gone out of the house and then gone back into the house trying to get a family member or a pet. Little they know the family member or the pet went out another door or got out before them or after them, and they just didn't see it. And now they're back in the house, putting themselves in danger and sometimes injuring or getting, hurt or killed or whatever, because they're searching for somebody or a pet that's not even in there anymore. So, that's what we're trained to do. And a lot of times someone might get isolated into another room where the fire hasn't breached, it's not smoke-filled environment. So if you can get out of the house and we can get there and that person's still waiting, we'll get that person out. You go back in with no equipment, no hose lines, no training. You don't have the fresh air to breathe that we do when we get there. And you just, you end up making the situation worse. So, just get yourself out. And that does lead to a good point. And I see my buddy Steve Burnick, go Wahoos, made a good point that I'll just bring up. So he brought up having a meeting place. So that ties into having a fire plan. And I've noticed, at least in our school system here, it's been integrated into where my daughter's come home and said, hey, this is a homework assignment. I have to get a fire plan. And so basically she has to draw a sketch of the house and say, you know, if there's a fire, here's where we're all going. We're all going on to this neighbor's house by this tree, and everybody knows what the plan is. So then it eliminates that whole, hey, I ran outside. Oh, man, I think my daughter's still inside, and you're running back in when she's not, you know. So you come outside, you go to the meeting place, and you immediately are like, oh, cool, my daughter's right here. So, you know, it eliminates all that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I'm glad that Steve brought that up, because I think a lot of times we forget about that and we think, oh, I'll have time to round everybody up, or it won't be that crazy. But I will tell you that smoke fills up places fast. And so very quickly, you're not going to be able to see, you're not going to be able to breathe. You're going to be so focused on either getting out or getting your people or your things that you're going to miss something. You could trip and fall, anything could happen. So I think having that meeting place of just saying, let me watch out for me, get to where I need to go, assuming, of course, that you're that you're able to do that. And like you said, there's no young children or elderly or other handicapped individuals around. But I know even here in the apartment complex, when we filled up with smoke, I was banging on the doors, and a lady wasn't really thinking and said, oh, like, I need to just stay here because my babies are asleep. And I said, we're all going to be sleeping permanently.
Wake them up.
Wake them up. I'll carry them out. She picked them up and she went to the elevator to try to get on the elevator to go down 7 floors. And, then we had to, no, we can't do the elevator. You have to go down the stairs. So it's always important to have that meeting place, but also to think about how you're going to get to that meeting place. So that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, and you know what, the fastest way out or the best way out might not always be, and obviously in that type of building is a different thing. You're 7 floors up, but if you're in just a regular single-story, 2-story house, it may not be the best idea to go down the stairs or go out the front door. If the fire is already, if you're going to have to go through that area where you got fire and smoke, the best thing might be to close your door, which surprisingly enough, just an interior house door can double the time it takes to fill with smoke, or it can be a 500-degree difference from the outside of the door to the inside. So if you just close your door, open a window and bail out the window, or if it's a point where you can't necessarily bail out the window, break the window or open it and then wait for the first truck to get there, and then, throw something down, wave, scream, yell, do whatever you got to do. But if you close that door, you buy yourself some time. It might be 2 or 3 minutes, but that might be all you need is that 2 or 3 minutes. So it might not be the quickest way out, but if you try to go through through fire or smoke to get downstairs and out the door, you might be overcome with smoke, and we might end up coming up and finding you inside when you could have just gone out the window.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, love it. That's awesome. And Steve, I'll also throw out there too that anytime you're here in Charlottesville for a game, you just let me know and I have a glass of bourbon for you, because he was so kind to offer earlier in the show that he would bring you back some bourbon. So
I like it.
Any Wahoo who's in the department, who's also a friend of the families, come on over. But I also wanted to ask you too. So Tracy, bringing the focus back on you for a second. As we kind of wrap up tonight, Tracy wanted to know what's been your favorite department that you worked for, and she said pay scale can't be any deciding factor there. But I do want to ask you real quick if you can just touch on the fact that you can or cannot move departments, and what does that look like? Because a lot of people, they think, oh, I don't ever have a choice once I go to this one place. If somebody decides to move departments, is that possible? And I guess since she asked the question, you have to tell everybody where your favorite has been so far. But I'm gonna broaden that, and I'll say, where's your favorite location that you've ever worked, rather than which department's your favorite? Because I'm not trying to get anybody's panties in the knot.
That's all right. I don't think anybody will hold it against me, especially Tracy. She's a nice lady. So I made the move because I felt like Virginia Beach was better for me. I was in another department before for a little over 6 years. I lived in Virginia Beach. My second job was in Virginia Beach. My kids went to school in Virginia Beach. You know, that was where I lived and I hung out and did everything. And I felt like I knew that Virginia Beach had a very good reputation. We have our own training center. We have, you know, pretty strict standards on training and PT and all that good stuff, and a very nationally recognized department. So I felt like to be able to serve in my hometown and have all those amenities that wasn't, you know, necessarily available to me before was a good move for me. And I don't regret that at all. I love being in Virginia Beach. As far as my favorite assignment in Virginia Beach, you know, you're always biased to the moment, but I really love where I'm at now. So I always said if I was going to work in Virginia Beach, then I might as well do a tour at the ocean front, because that's where Virginia Beach is. And so when I got promoted, that's where I was assigned, which was my first time being assigned at that station. So it's actually one of the busiest houses in the state. I think we're top 50 in the nation, actually. We run a lot of calls, which means not a whole lot of sleep some nights, but it is what it is. It's a whole different environment. So we have the richest of the rich, the poorest of the poor. We have high rises. We have 1 million. You know, our population blooms from 500,000 to 1 million during tourism season. So we get to see, you know, see a whole lot of different things down there. And I was blessed to be promoted and handed, you know, an exceptional crew that knows what they're doing. They're great to get, you know, everybody gets along. There's no egos to deal with or anything like that. So right now, man, I'm loving my assignment.
That's awesome. Well, good, because I think we've all been in positions where, you know, either we're working somewhere or we're living with somebody or whatever, and we're just not the happiest. And so in a situation like a fire department where you're working with someone and living with someone and you can all get along is really great. So that's awesome.
Sure.
And just saying hello again, another Virginia Beach lady of the evening, Jennifer Warner, is here. So you might be saving her one day because she's on the ocean a lot. Ty, Nathan, John, Annette, Jake, and Carrie have all joined in during that last question. And I wanted to touch on one more thing too, before we, you know, wrap everything up. You've talked about the crazy schedules, you know, and how it's shifts, you know, different places mean different schedules, not getting a whole lot of sleep. But it always seems like to me that firefighters have time to do so many other things in life. So they're firefighters, but, you know, they're also moms or dads or brothers or sisters or, you know, whatever. But they also end up being some of the most, like, craftiest, skilled people. So there are so many that do, you know, home improvement work, or they might do lawn care, they might do this or might do that. And I happen to know that you fall into that category of a very skilled and knowledgeable person in stuff other than firefighting.
Right.
So I want you to plug yourself real quick for your other duties that you do, and just let everybody know what your professional realm looks like outside of the fire department.
Yeah, sure. So we do all kind of have something else on the side. There's, like I said, I kind of mentioned all the cons of our schedule earlier. The pros is if you're working 24-hour shifts, then you knock it out in fewer days. So we kind of average 10 days a month. A lot of guys have done a previous job, had the previous career before they got hired in the fire department. Sometimes it takes a little while to get picked up. And so that's where you get the diversity and, you know, different skill sets that come in. And then a lot of times they'll employ other firefighters to work for them. So then it just kind of branches out and everybody, you know, learns off of that. For me, I kind of grew up always loving business. I've always loved real estate. And I went to real estate school when I was 18, and I got hired. I literally finished real estate school and got the phone call that I was hired by the fire department that week, and kind of put that off. Ended up, you know, my goal was to go back and do that as well as the fire department. I got recruited to be a mortgage banker instead and went that route for about 6 years. And since then, had my hand in some form of real estate. So I'm a landlord. I, did a house flip actually with another fireman. We did that together, and I got the opportunity last year to go into commercial real estate. So just over a year now, I've been doing the commercial side. It's super cool because now it's just another way to integrate into the community. So a lot of the small business owners, some of the bigger business owners, I get to represent them, or I get to find them a bigger spot, or it's maybe a property that I represent. Now they're coming because they want to be there. And it's just one more way to meet that many more people in the community. And it's good because it's completely separate from the fire department. So I think it's good to have a diversity in your life. So I got off at 8 o'clock this morning, took off the uniform, got a shower, got a quick workout, not in that order. And then, threw on, I went nice and casual today with some khakis and a polo and pulled, 8 or 9 hours in the office. So that's me in commercial real estate, but you're right. There's people with landscaping. I actually use some firefighters from a neighboring city to do a lot of my construction work in the commercial real estate. So I try to tie that into and help those guys out. And, they do ground up construction and build out and all that good stuff. So we're all a big community. We all know that we each have something else. I organized a big list that went around the department for what everyone does as their second job. So that way, if I need this particular thing done, the first thing I'm going to do is look at this list and see if there's somebody in my department that does it. And, if so, I want to shoot them some business and know that I'm getting somebody I can rely on. So anyway, there's my self-plug. Maybe you can help me out after your show, do a little link. I do have a little Facebook page if you're in the area and you're interested in the new businesses coming. I'm putting in and all that good stuff. Throw a link up there and follow me too.
Yeah. And that will, and you can even do that in the comments. A lot of times I'll just if I'm using a recipe or telling a video or something like that, we'll put them in the comments. So everybody look out in the comments below. John will put his Facebook page. So if your house catches on fire, you should probably call 911. But if you're looking for some good commercial real estate, you should probably call Jon Elliott.
That's right.
And you can use that slogan if you want to. Just copyright it to me. So that's awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you for too long. So I guess we'll just kind of finish out with, I always ask one question is, if you could sum up whatever you wanted to share about being a firefighter, about National Fire Prevention Week, if you could just save a couple of seconds to say goodnight to everybody, what would it be?
Oh boy. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of bases. I don't know how much more there is left. I'll say, depending on what you want out of life, it'll take a lot out of you. You're going to have a lot of great memories, a lot of memories that maybe you don't want to have. It's a mix in there, but overall, it is a great profession. You learn so much. You meet so many good people, and I can't say much more than that. That wraps it up. It's been a fun ride, 15 years. I got a few more to go. I'll ride it out and see what happens, but I've enjoyed the ride for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Now I get the laugh because it's my show. But what I want to say first and foremost is thank you so much for sharing your time tonight. And thanks for everybody that watched. Special shout out not only to John, but to Marcus, to Thomas, to Steve, to Tracy, to Zach, to Rhonda. I'm trying to remember all the first responders who are watching tonight. Thank each and every one of you for doing what you do. As Jonathan Gatewood said, it's very obvious that you're so passionate about your jobs, and it makes me feel safer at night knowing that people are doing this who really care and who are really good at what they do. So thank you, John, and every first responder who's watching now. We appreciate everything that you do. So I'll say, in case of emergency, call 911. Don't lollygag. Do what you need to do. Get out. Be safe and stay alive. Call your local firehouse. Tell them thank you, or let them know you want to come out and visit and see what they do. But it's a good time. So that's our show for tonight. I do want to give a plug. Next week, we're actually going to speak with Annette Buchanan, who's actually from California, and she's going to talk to us about her journey being diagnosed with breast cancer, because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So next week, we will have a survivor and a thriver telling us about her story. So from one great story to another, I'm excited, and I hope to see all of you here. I'm going to make you sit through my goodbye, because I always end with this, and it's a phrase that says, from dreams to goals and goals to realities, because dreams are for those who are sleeping. If you're alive and awake and watching the Jason Elliott Show with Jason and John talking about firefighters, then that means that you are waking up to actually work towards your goals. If you work hard towards your goals, those goals will eventually become your reality. So dream really big, work really hard, and then bask in the reality that you've created. Remember that nobody in this entire world can stop you from making your reality yours. Nobody else can do it for you, so do it for yourself. And then come back each and every Thursday to the Jason Elliott Show, where we have a good time and talk about all kinds of good things. And that's how we do it tonight. I'm going to get you to give me a high five as we sign off, because that's how we end the Jason Elliott Show. Wait, let me get my hand bigger. There we go. Ugh. Perfect. That might be the best one yet.
And a wahoo wah.
Wahoo wah. Well, I was going to say wahoo wah, but I'm in firefighter tonight. All right. Thanks so much. Good night, everybody.